Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, Part 25. This is a special episode. We are going to watch the announcement trailer, the story trailer, and the opening cinematic video for Elden Ring, and break them down using only what we've learned so far playing through Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula. It's typically expected that we would have watched these before we played the game, and we did. But since we didn't know anything about it, I didn't think it would be a very engaging episode for us to watch these trailers at the start. You know, you've all most likely seen these before. But just so we can have the information from the trailers fresh in our mind for the rest of the playthrough, we are going to watch these three videos. First, we will watch them once, uninterrupted, and then we will watch them again with me pausing for commentary. So let's jump right into it.
I doubt you could even imagine it. That which commanded the stars, giving life its fullest brilliance. The Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. Shattered by someone or something. Don't tell me you don't see it. Look up at the sky. It burns.
Awesome announcement trailer. If you have the chance, watch the live reaction on YouTube when the audience goes crazy when it says Hidetaka Miyazaki, and then they go even crazier when it says George R. R. Martin. It's so cool. So we're going to watch this trailer. Again, we're just going to go through specific spots, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing. Okay, so the first time we get 3 hits, and on the third time, this room is illuminated. We see something in the center, like a stand of some sort. This reminds me of where we start the game, in that foggy area. Except we see a figure pounding something in the center, and it's glowing every single time he hits it. He's still hammering away. Okay. Now this is most likely our first look at the demigod, Godric the Grafted. He's got the arms all grafted together. I think he's called an old man. He's got a crown. This is our first look at him. And when he's putting this arm, it's a different color than his kind of gray, sickly color for the rest of his arms. It starts to twitch right there. See? It's coming to life as he puts it on. And then we have our narrator say, I doubt you can even imagine it. That which commanded the stars. So this scene, we see what looks like threads coming off of this, what must be a hammer. It's kind of crude looking. We know that the Elden Ring is shattered. The dialogue from the trailer is going to say that. So this person is shattering the Elden Ring with a hammer, and left behind are threads. We know that the Elden Ring, do we know this? Yeah, we have to get the Great Rune from the Elden Ring. We have to get the Great Rune from the demigod who who inherited a shard from the Elden Ring. We have to get a Great Rune. The Rune Arc shards we activate the Great Runes. Runes are runes are what we use to level up. Runes and purchase things. Runes are in ancient Germanic languages. They are essentially they were a writing, they were a language, but it was mostly tied to kind of like magical arts, divining the future and that. So we're going to be a little cute here. If the Elden Ring is made up of runes, then the Elden Ring is literally made up of words. It's made up of characters. It's made up of sentences and paragraphs. We might not be able to read it, but it is made up of runes. It's made up of words in some way. The Golden Order has collapsed. Now, we don't know what order is yet. But when I think order, when I think Golden Order, I think the correct order things are supposed to be in. And playing with the idea that the Elden Ring is made of runes, and the name of the game is Elden Ring, what are these threads? Could these be the threads of fate? Could these be plot threads? You know, a plot thread or a narrative thread is just a way to talk about like how a storyline is weaved together. So knowing that the game Elden Ring is named the same thing as the Elden Ring, and the Elden Ring is made up of words, and this guy is hitting it with a hammer, and now there are threads. What could that mean for the nature of the Elden Ring? Now, we are just using what we've learned so far in game and just playing around with these ideas. Since runes and grace come from the Erd Tree and the Elden Ring, why do we see these threads? And knowing that runes are characters and words, what could those threads represent?
Which commanded the stars, giving life its fullest brilliance.
So the Elden Ring commands the stars and gives life its fullest brilliance. So when we get back into the game and we look at anything to do with stars, we know that the Elden Ring controls the stars and gives life its fullest brilliance. Well, if the Elden Ring if the Elden Ring is the words and thread to our story, of course it would control the stars. It would control everything. I don't know if you heard my cat Luther meowing in the background for that. He wants to talk about Elden Ring too.
The Elden Ring.
All right, so this is our first look at Melania, the Blade of Mikola. We learn about her from the Sword Monument, and we learned about her from Kenneth Haidt, that Godric hid from her. So far we saw Godric and Melania. Those are I think the only demigods. Are they I don't know if we know she's a demigod. We will in an upcoming trailer. Yeah. So we already know she's a demigod. So we saw 2 of the 3 demigods that most people have talked about in her story so far. I think the only ones that they've talked about so far. She has one arm that is severed. It's made of kind of like bronze or gold. Her helmet weaved together, and then wings. Well, we have the winged maidens from the Scythe that we got in Weeping Peninsula. Talked about gentle envoys of death. Is she supposed to represent perhaps a Valkyrie? And that Valkyrie is a winged angel, a gentle envoy of death. Her hands look like they're decomposing in some way, but she has this kind of like gold thread through it. So, interesting stuff. And here we have, all right, so it's getting shattered by a man with one long braided hair. Now, the only man with braided hair that we've seen like this, we found the statues, Church of Pilgrimage, and we deduced that might have been Radigan, who may be a Golden Order fundamentalist, thanks to the location of the dissected remains of a centipede used as a fetish of the hunters of those who live in death, the Golden Order fundamentalist hunters. We also found his scar seal, which showed the lattice, which is a cross stitch. A lattice is also used as a trellis in gardening to help plants grow up it. So this guy who's a Golden Order fundamentalist, whose symbolism is related to things of like tailoring. We had those threads before, tailoring, plot threads, as well as what do you call it? As a trellis for gardening to give things structure. Why is he shattering the Elden Ring? His symbolism dictates that he should be weaving the threads together. He should make sure that it's cohesive, that the Elden Ring stays together, that the Golden Order stays together. So someone or something shattered the Elden Ring, and there we see the shattering right there. It's shattering, and the runes are coming off. But I also wanted, while he is shattering the Elden Ring, he himself is also cracking. So something about destroying the Elden Ring is also destroying him. And then we have this knight. I can't really, with a spear, stab a dude in the stomach. Oof. All right, we'll see who that guy is in a moment. Okay, now this is a different person. Their hair is not going down their back in a braid. Looks blonde now. And their back is also cracked.
You don't see it.
Oh, I see it.
Look up at the sky.
So here we have a red mane. He just got stabbed by a knight. There's a bunch of people dead here. A lot of dead people. The sky is red. Well, the only place that we saw that really had a red sky was when we kind of went towards Caelid a little bit. That kind of had a red sky. And we know that many soldiers have marched in Caelid in times past. Godfrey was there thanks to that sword monument. But when we see a red mane, well, we should probably be thinking the Red Manes and Radahn, the great general. So looks like Radahn and Melania were fighting each other. We know from the order that Kenneth Haidt says he hid from Radahn. Godric hid from Radahn in his castle. Godric fled the capital, hid from Radahn in his castle, and then challenged Melania just to lick her boots. So the order is Godric leaves the capital, which we learned is Leyndell in the Altus Plateau, hides in Stormvale Castle in the fringe regions. Then Radahn comes by, and he stays in his castle. So Radahn's army passes by maybe that bridge before it was destroyed. Yeah, most likely that bridge must have been intact for his army to march down. Past that bridge on the side of Stormvale Castle. And then Melania comes by. And I guess because she's a woman, he thought he could challenge her. And then he licks her boots in battle, tasting defeat from the blade of Mikola. And it looks like Radahn didn't fight Godric in the castle, so he's not interested in Godric. Maybe he is, but I guess he didn't siege the castle. So either he didn't siege the castle because he has no need for going after Godric, or he's running away from something, or he's running to something. We know Godric has a great rune. So is Radahn not interested in Godric's great rune because he passed by? Melania doesn't look like she's here to fight Radahn. She also doesn't seem to have an interest in Godric or his great rune. especially since Godric's still alive and he lost to Melania. So Melania doesn't have an interest in his Great Rune either, and probably wouldn't have fought him unless he attacked her. Based on Kenneth Height's dialogue, it seems like he went after her. And we look up at the sky and it burns. Well, he's on fire, but they're talking about the sky being on fire. We know about our Erd Tree prophecy. We picked the prophet class, so we know that the Erd Tree is going to burn. Is this dialogue, look up at the sky, it burns, is this the narrator alluding to the Erd Tree burning? That this prophecy is going to come true and the Erd Tree is going to burn? Also, why is this guy on fire? Why is Radahn on fire? What's making him burn? Is it the sky on fire? Is the Erd Tree burning? Well, the Erd Tree can't burn yet because it hasn't happened yet. We've seen that it's not on fire. It's not burning. We'll have to see if if the Erd Tree has burned before or if he's alluding to the prophecy. And here we go again. We have what we're saying is Radagon. Braid, red hair. It's kind of red. His back is cracking. It cracked even more. Flash of white light. That flash of white light is reminiscent to when we start the game. We'll see it in the opening cinematic that there's a big flash of white light right when we start the game. And after that flash of white light, Radagon is gone, and now we have this blonde-haired woman again, who I can only think is Marika. She, in the intros cutscene, she has blonde hair. Radagon was the king consort. He has an Elden Rune. Marika must have an Elden Rune as well, I would assume. We haven't found any indication that she does yet, but her statues give life. She's the giver of, she's like in the Erd Tree, most likely. You know, Melina is told us that her mother gave her duty in the Erd Tree. Like, what did she said? My mother. She's, so I have a text document open up for dialogue that we've already heard. Melina is searching for her purpose given to her by her mother inside of the Erd Tree long ago, for the reason she lives, burned and bodiless. So, that most likely means that, you know, our goal is to go to the Erd Tree, find the Elden Ring, most likely at the Erd Tree. This, probably in the Erd Tree. That was probably Radagon. It's probably Marika. Melina's mother. Shattering the Elden Ring. Well, Melina says that one of our kind is surely seek the Elden Ring, even if it does violate the Golden Order. So we're seeing violation of the Golden Order happening with Marika and Radagon, it seems. What's going on there? And then boom, because she falls down, and then it's Radagon. So is this different times? Is this the same time? Is this the same instance, or is this different time? Why is it switching back and forth? And they have the cracks on the same side. Are they? No, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. All right, well, that is the announcement trailer. Kind of crazy stuff. Now we'll watch the story trailer. So this is the story trailer. This came out in December of 2021. I think 3 months before Elden Ring released. On the YouTube description, this is very interesting. It says, the storyteller speaks. Okay. And when we know from when we're going to get to our opening cinematic, the fallen leaves tell a story. In the last trailer, you know, we were playing with the idea that the Elden Ring is made of runes. Runes are words and characters. And those threads may have been plot threads. Now we're learning about the storyteller is going to speak to us. So let us listen to the storyteller, and then we'll break down the trailer.
Peggy 16.
It happened an age ago. But when I recall, I see it true. On a night of wintry fog, the rune of death was stolen. and the demigods began to fall. Starting with Godwyn the Golden. Queen Marika was driven to the brink. The shattering ensued, a war that wrought only darkness. The Elden Ring was broken. But by whom? And why? What could the demigods ever hope to win by warring? The Conqueror of the Stars, General Radar. And the blade of Mikola, Melania the Seventh. These two were the mightiest to remain, and locked horns in combat. But there would be no victor. And so, we inhabit a fractured world, awaiting the arrival of the Elden Lord. Unless, of course, thou shouldst take the crown.
Okay, wow. Awesome. What a great... That is... gives me chills. That is so cool. That is so good. Okay, so the storyteller speaks. Let's start from the beginning. Try and break it down.
It happened an age ago.
So we get our first look at the storyteller, and our storyteller is Rena the Witch.
I see it true.
We see her kind of broken hands. She was the one who Torrent's former master, as she so claims. Torrent's former master said that, she says that Torrent's former master wanted us to have the spirit calling bell. But if we recall, she asked us if we can summon Torrent, and we said no. And then she asked us again. She said, "Trifle not with me, tarnished." She asked us again, and we said no. And she's, she was like, what's she say? She says, "Quite the stubborn one, aren't we? Wise in a way, the lands between are home to liars and cheats aplenty. Perhaps thine ample mistrust will be to thy benefit." And then she gives us the spirit calling bell anyway. She doesn't actually give it to us. She leaves it on the ground for us to pick up. So that was Rena the Witch. Rena the Witch is the storyteller. And she says that that it's amiable, that we don't trust people, that this place is filled with liars and cheats. So we'll listen to her story, but let's not trust it completely. I won't say that she's lying. However, she's trying to tell a story, and that story is probably to her own benefit, especially when we see what she says at the end. So let's just keep that in mind, that Rena the Witch here is telling the story. Can we trust everything that she tells us?
on a night of wintry fog.
All right, these look like the funeral steeds that the Knights Cavalry, ride. However, and that the Rune of Death was stolen. And now they're going to go into how Godwin is murdered. But it wasn't the Knights Cavalry. This isn't the Knights Cavalry. We know it's the Black Knife Assassins from the Death Touch Catacombs. It was the Black Knife Assassins who did it. And they didn't have faces. We don't know about the Knights Cavalry. They only come out at night. And they seem to be working for Margit the Fell Omen. But these look like two different groups of people, most like two different groups of people on these funeral steeds that can be summoned from that dark void that the Knights Cavalry did. So perhaps that was how they were able to steal it. Maybe they were posing as Knights Cavalry. Maybe the Knights Cavalry adopted the funeral steeds after this point. Maybe funeral steeds is a common thing that people can do, summon these horses. We can summon Torrent, the spectral steed, with our whistle. He's a ghost. He's a specter. These funeral steeds, they may also be specters. They're funeral steeds, so maybe they're already dead. That's why they have this funeral shroud. And this happened on a night of wintry fog. At night, I mean, obviously you would, if you're going to steal something as powerful as the Rune of Death, if we remember from our death route, the Rune of Death enabled the first death of a demigod. And if we think back to before about runes being part of the Elden Ring, so the rune this was stolen from the Elden Ring? They stole this from the Elden Ring? So somehow they stole a rune, the Rune of Death, from the Elden Ring, and that's how the demigods die. Without the Rune of Death, they cannot kill demigods. Huh, okay. And it's these Black Knife Assassins on these steeds that they can only summon at night.
Rune of Death was stolen.
Yeah, you can actually see. That's pretty cool. Look at the cloak. It's like it's a shadow. It's like it's fog. It's like not a real cloak.
And the demigods began to fall.
Okay, so the demigods began to fall, starting with Godwin the Golden. Here he is, blonde hair, Godwin the Golden. Golden, perhaps golden lineage, golden grace. America's got blonde hair, so he's definitely America's son. They got blonde hair. Golden lineage, Godwin the Golden, perhaps part of the golden lineage. Either it's because he's got this golden hair. We've seen Godric in that trailer. Godric does not have golden hair. I don't think we've seen Godfrey yet. He might also have golden hair. But so far, no, we haven't yet. We think Horaloo might be Godfrey. We'll have to see what color his hair is. But they're old, so perhaps age, if they had gold hair and it got gray. Or perhaps they're trying to hide the hair color. That's very George R. R. Martin. And he has this gash in his back. It reminds me of the last trailer, of the shattering on the back. Oh, this is a bad gash. That's bad. So he's bleeding. All the blood's coming out.
With Godwin the Golden.
And then what's happening underneath his body? It's something's moving from within into his eyes. Now, eyes are important because people know our character is tarnished because we don't have grace anymore. So let's see his eye. And it starts leaking out this black, this inky shadow. Oh, we have a lot of things to look at here. So his eye looks kind of... Gosh. Is that gold? It's a little flecked with gold. It kind of looks like scaly a little bit. But then look at what's coming out of his eye. What is that? That's not blood. Those are like worms or something. Like worms are coming out of him. So the Rune of Death, they kill him with the Rune of Death. What's the charm that we had? The knife charm? The assassin's crimson dagger. The charm is modeled after the darkly gleaming blades used in the Night of the Black Knives, those which gave the demigod their first taste of death. The demigods the first. So their knives, they stole the rune of death, and with their knives and the rune of death, it's a misshapen and stained crimson. Sorry, I'm just reading the item description. I'm sorry I can't show it right now. Maybe I'll edit it on the screen, or you'll just have to listen to my words. The charm is modeled. Darkly gleaming blades. So, did they put the rune of death in their knives and then they stabbed him with the knives? And then these, like, worms start going through his body? Like, look at that. These death worms? Death bugs? Okay. Yeah, something's crazy with the rune of death. All right, here. So we have a chair with trees on it. It's throne. This guy has a crown, holding a crown, and this guy looks like Margit. Okay, he's got the same kind of cloak.
The shattering ensued, a war that wrought only darkness.
Okay, we'll talk about our line in a second. So there's a bunch of thrones around here. Wooden thrones here. That's Margit. Look at that staff. That's him. And he had this crown. So we were thinking, like, does Margit work for the grace-given Lord? How did he become free? How did he get that talisman pouch, which was, like, given to a lord from one of the finger readers, the elderly finger readers, bestowed upon the ruling lord or those attempting to become lord? So how did he have that? We assume that he might have killed the king. This is like... These are thrones here. There's one of those Chapel of Anticipation statues. You know, this... Thrones, you know, it's got to be Leyndell. It's got to be at the capital. So why does he have the Lord's crown? And then Rena says, the shattering ensued, a war that wrought only darkness. Okay. The Elden Ring was broken, by whom and why? Well,
But by whom?
we in the last trailer, we saw it looked like Radigan and Marika were shattering the Elden Ring. So the rune of death was stolen. The demigods began to fall, staring Gollum and Golden. Queen Marika was driven to the brink. The shattering ensued, a war that wrought only darkness. So based on that line, based on those lines, it sounds like what Rena is telling us. Now remember, this is Rena, the storyteller, who told us not to trust everybody. The rune of death is stolen. Godwyn is killed. Marika's driven to the brink, and the shattering ensues. The Elden Ring is broken. But whom and why? Okay. So, based on what Rena is telling us, it makes it sound like that the rune of death being stolen, killing Godwyn the Golden, drove Marika to the brink. She breaks the Elden Ring with Radigan, I guess. And then the shattering, the war ensues. And here we have Margit with the king's crown, the Lord's crown, at the Erd Tree, possibly. And what is he, going off to war?
But by whom? And why?
So here we see our Erd Tree. It kind of looks like, and it has fallen leaves. The fallen leaves tell a story. You know, after Godwyn dies, we get Death Root. Death to the roots. The root of death. Those who live in death start popping up. So we're getting this war that's happening, and also there are zombie soldiers from the Sun Realm popping up too. Yeah, this place is totally destabilized. Queen Marika is driven to the brink. The Elden Ring's broken. There's dead people everywhere. The tree, the leaves are falling from the Erd Tree. And they're telling a story. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, this is totally Leyndell. Yeah, we got tree imagery. Yeah, okay. Leyndell, 100%. But then look who's attacking. We got those trolls. Huge, massive army. And we can tell whose army this is. They got their siege towers, trebuchets. They're getting pelted with these... they're leaking out this, like, mists of some sort. Maybe it's poison, like chemical warfare from inside the city. And we can see who these guys are. In just a moment. We could see now, but when we get closer.
The demigods ever hope to win by
Okay, so the demigods are all fighting each other. What could they hope to win by warring? So we have the trolls fighting, but then look, beast and tree. These are Godric's soldiers. So we know Godric fled the capital. But before he fled the capital, he invaded. Well, it's the golden lineage, and there's lots of scions of the golden bow. These soldiers, and since Godric fled, these soldiers may not be necessarily under Godric's control, because Godric fled the capital. If he fled the capital and hid in the castle, did he flee the capital, muster an army, fight, and then retreat? This army is massive. This is way more soldiers than he has in Limgrave. The golden lineage, we have the scions. There's a lot of appears like there's more. What did he say? Kenneth Haidt says, "Oh, last of the golden lineage." So there was others before him in the golden lineage. This army may not have been hosted by Godric. However, Godric, is most likely aligned with this army. They all have his surcoat. So perhaps after he fled, someone else in his family commanded this. And this guy right here, he was defending Stormvale Castle from Tarnished. He's like that Tarnished killer, the Night Killer. A lot of people failed. Like, they couldn't even get him 30% down in his health. So, and this is inside of the Erd Tree. Why is he defending Godric if this golden lineage army is invading the city? These could be at different times. These might not be at the same times, but it's hard to say. Why is he defending Godric? Why is he in the city? Did he kill the king? Is he an assassin for Godric? Is that why he's defending Godric? To kill the grace-given lord? Huh. Who knows? But we're painting a picture here. We want to figure... This guy's a mystery. Margaret the Fell Omen. We have to figure out who he is and what's his relation to the grace-given lord and where the grace-given lord is. That's one of our big questions that we have right now. That's a big question. Who are those? Who's Margaret? Who's he working for? And who's this grace-given lord?
and why?
But this gives us... We know that the demigods are warring, but we don't know why, what they hope to accomplish. See one of those towers. Oh, the broken bridge. So that's cool. So this is where the broken bridge was. We teleported there. Like right here, and we could see the tree from that angle.
What could the demigods ever...
Is the tree on fire? It's kind of glowing. Like, is that just the tree being the tree, or are the leaves on fire? I won't speculate that it's burning. Could be, but I'm not gonna speculate that right now.
What could the demigods ever hope to win by warring?
And it's interesting to see that the trolls, we know kind of like which side the trolls are on. They seem firmly golden lineage. All right, now we get our confirmation. We got General Radahn and Melania. Ren is going to say that these are the two mightiest demigods that remained, locked horns in combat, but there'd be no victor. So these are the last two demigods to war. He's on a horse. He rides a horse. Yeah, let's keep going. Okay, he's magical.
The conqueror of the stars, General Radahn.
And is conqueror of the stars. So he's all right, this is new. So General Radahn is a conqueror of the stars, but the Elden Ring is supposed to command the stars. So the Elden Ring commanded the stars, but now this guy conquered them. So is he stronger than the Elden Ring? Well, he's got this freaking crazy magical power just from opening up his swords.
And the blade of Mikkel and
All right, Blade of Mikkel and Melina severed. So we know whose side who's on.
These two were the mightiest to remain, and locked horns in combat.
He severed her arm again. Let's look at his face. Oh, he's nasty looking. Kind of like gold red eyes. See that? Gold red eyes. Horns. Well, horns and fangs. He's trying. You know, it's interesting so far. You know, we don't have him in this trailer. This guy, he has horns and like a scorpion tail. Godric was called the Spider by Roderica. Melania has bird wings. Radon is a red mane, and he has horns on him. So, like, all of these demigods are evoking animals in some way.
And the blade of Mikkel and Melania the Seventh.
So we're trying to figure out what that symbolism means.
These two were the mightiest to remain, and locked horns.
Yeah, locking horns in combat. That's like, you know, we learned about the Crucible and people turning into animals. Why are the demigods evoking this turning into animals thing? All right, she jumps on her own sword to stab him. Her blood starts coming out. Maybe that's some, I don't know, Crucible blood or something. I don't know. You could look like a little lion face. Like, what's up with these guys trying? And she's got bird wings. What's up with these people trying to be animals? Like the Crucible Knights and Blythe the Half-Wolf and the Farm Beastmen. She's sinking that sword deep. What's she doing? Oh, and then she's saying something. Okay. See that? Her lips are moving. And then there's no victor. So she stabs herself and says something. She whispers something. And then, let's listen to it. It's like a blood gurgling.
But there would be no victor.
And then this looks like kind of hair. So is she doing like a self-sacrifice? As like if she cuts herself, she can explode to win? They locked horns in combat, but there was no victor. Yeah, like, what is this? Kind of looks like a flower petal. But it makes it like it's made out of hair. Well, that's one way to deal with them, I guess.
And so, we inhabit a fractured...
All right, we come back to Rena.
Awaiting the arrival...
They're waiting for the arrival of the Lord. We see this kind of frosty, starry bit. We learn that from Selen. Golden amber contains remnants of ancient life and houses its vitality, while glintstone contains residual life and thus the vitality of the stars. Residual, what's left after, the power of the soul. We see Rena's double face. She kind of has like icy crystals and kind of snow on her crown. This is kind of frosty. Looks like she's made of thread, so she's like a doll with a soul in a doll. And this kind of looks like the starlight from the starlight shards and also from that sending gate. Yeah, so I'm getting star soul imagery here. But this is what's interesting. So this is the storyteller awaiting the arrival of the Elden Lord. Unless, of course, thou shalt take the crown. And then she looks directly at us. She says, thou should take the crown. And looks directly at us. At the audience, about you and me. She's, in the beginning, when we first met Melina, she also looks directly in the camera. Why is the storyteller of this trailer talking to the audience? Inviting us. This is a trailer to get you to play the game. Why is this character specifically Rena the Witch, who told us that it's good to not trust people, who said that Torrent's former master wanted us to have the spirit calling bell, the spirits who look fondly upon our tarnish? Why is she asking us, the audience, beckoning us, purchase Elden Ring, become the Elden Lord? You should take the crown. The world is fractured, and everyone is awaiting the arrival of the Elden Lord. But you, viewer, customer, you could take the crown. That is very interesting, especially when you consider that Elden Ring and the Elden Ring are both made of words and threads, and both tell a story. How very interesting. Okay, that was our story trailer. Now we're going to do the opening cinematic. Only Jack as a mimic can take 12 minutes of footage and turn it to an hour. Probably not. A lot of people could do this. We're having fun. We're learning. Okay, so this is the opening cinematic. We see this after we create our tarnished.
The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord.
All right, so for this one, since it's a slideshow, I have the text up on another window. So we could just look at the slides and go over what it says. So our first one, we're seeing the Elden Ring shatter here. And let's put this at the side so it's not in the way. And the fallen leaves tell a story. Again, we're getting this a lot of story. Like Elden Ring is throwing it in our face that this is a story, and I think that's important. You know, when people write stories, they know they're writing stories, but it's very interesting that the story is referencing that it's a story. The story trailer had the storyteller, and the storyteller told us to play Elden Ring, become Elden Lord. Now the fallen leaves tell a story. We see what looks like Marika, and then Radigan. Marika, Radigan. Boom. Why? Why are they both there? Shattering the Elden Ring. But they're in the same spot. Look at that. The hell could that mean? So the great Elden Ring was shattered. We know that. Here we go. Was that Stormvale? In her home, across the fog, the lands between. The lands between what? I like the across the fog thing. You know, we know it's. I think it's a sea of fog. It's interesting that we have to across the fog is the lands between. What's outside of the fog? Is there anything outside of the fog? You know, the story, the Fallen Leaves tell a story. The story only takes place. I think you can hear my cat Luther again. He's really interested in this. The story only takes place in the lands between. So outside of the lands between is very foggy. You know, the story doesn't exist there, so we don't need anything there. Then we get Queen Marika the Eternal. So this is I think the only time in game that she'll be called the Eternal. But you know, eternal forever. So she's Queen Marika the Eternal Queen. She exists forever. Is that just a title she's given? Is she actually an Eternal, or is she not an Eternal? We could see that again here. This is like her statue where she's crucified in that crucified position, and Radigan is in the cross statue. We see her dress wrapped around the armbands on her wrist. She also has, or are her armbands on her arms. You can actually see as this progresses. There you go. You could see she's kind of complete, but when it gets darker, you could see that her arms are shattering. So this must be post shattering the Elden Ring. She's crucified for shattering the Elden Ring. And on her wrists, what are these? She's nowhere to be found. She's missing. Queen Marika, the Eternal, is nowhere to be found. The Elden Ring was shattered, and now Marika is missing. That could be why we need an Elden Lord. If Marika is missing, where is Radigan? Where is Radigan?
Queen Marika the Eternal.
Oh wait, I need to. I can. And in the Night of the Black Knives, Godwyn was first to perish. So this is so we're seeing the Black Knife assassins actually carve this into his back. His position too is interesting. His arms are upright, like in a look at this. Her arms upright like in a crucified pose. His arms are upright in a crucified pose. See that? Look at that. Why are they both evoking crucifixion? This guy says Godwyn was the first to perish. He doesn't say murder. These are Black Knife assassins, so he's getting assassinated. But is he a weak dude? Did he lose a fight to them? How did this happen? You know, we have to think it was the Black Knife plot. They had to steal the Rune of Death. Now, just based on, like, he's in this crucifixion type pose. Like, he's a sacrifice. Is he being sacrificed to something? Like, look at what's going on here. They, like, beat him up to get to this point? Cut him up? Too many would fight him? Like, is he a weak guy? He's Godwyn the Golden? We don't really know much about Godwyn the Golden yet. Would he willingly be killed? It's just this pose, really. Why is he in this sacrificial pose? As we see his blonde hair again. Yeah, why would he be in that, like, this crucifixion pose? Like, what? why are we getting this imagery? How did these Black Knife assassins get the jump on him? Why does he have his shirt off? You know, if they're why do they have to carve this in his back like this? Even the knife has that kind of crack in it too. Why can't they just slit his throat while he's sleeping? Why do they have to do it like this? Okay. Then we see Rena the Witch from behind. That's her hat. Marika's offspring, demigods all, claim the shards of the Elden Ring. So each of them claimed shards of the Elden Ring. The only thing that we have, Melina calls Godric a shard bearer, and we have to claim his great rune. But the rune arcs that we have are called a shard of the shattered Elden Ring, and they grant the blessing of an equipped great rune. If no great rune is equipped, it'll slightly increase HP. It is said that the lower arch of the Elden Ring receives its bounty, and this is a shard of one such arch. So, the rune arcs are shards, and they activate great runes. And we have to kill Godric for his great rune. So, soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all claim the shards of the Elden Ring. Well, the only shards that we know of so far are the rune arcs. That's the only thing called a shard. So, the demigods, Marika's offspring, they're all Marika's offspring. Does offspring have to be direct children? Marika's offspring, demigods all, claim the shards of the Elden Ring. I'm not sure if offspring, I guess any, so the demigod, Marika's offspring, demigods all. So not all demigods are Marika's, Marika's offspring, demigods all. All of Marika's offspring are demigods. But not all demigods are Marika's offspring. And they claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. And the only shards we know of are the rune arcs. It's the only item so far in-game that we have that is called a shard of the shattered Elden Ring. We know that Godric is a shard bearer, so all of the demigods must be shard bearers. And they must have these rune arcs that activate the power of great runes. That's why we have to get his great rune. He has a great rune. He used a rune arc from the shattered Elden Ring. His great rune gave him great power. And yeah, that makes sense. Radagon had the Elden rune. So, and he's the king consort. Did he get it? Did he have an Elden rune because he's king consort? Did Marika give him? Can she give runes? I don't know. But that's what we're saying. And now it looks like Rena the Witch. She is a demigod. So there's one more reason why we can't trust her. What is she up to? She's part of this war, and she's saying, pick my side. I'm not even going to tell you I'm one of America's kids. That's sneaky, sis. Okay, let's see what else. So here we have Margit the Fell Omen. We know it's Margit. Look at that staff. Look at those horns. On top of Radahn. Where could have this been? Well, the ending of the war is Melania and Radahn in Caelid. So this has to be before that. Is this him? It's probably not him by Stormvale. Radahn was passing Stormvale to get to Caelid. Why was he going that way? Did he also... where did this... Yeah, this guy, this Margit guy... Wait, is he all... America's offspring, demigods all. They're showing both of them in the image. So are both of these guys... Is Margit a demigod? It just said Emily Feld, though, but he didn't die. Margit didn't die. The Margit guy, we got to figure out... He's the key to all of this, to figuring this. We know he's a demigod. That's Radahn. Is he a demigod? What did he do to the Grace-Given Lord? The hell is going on with Margit? But it looks like he kicked Radahn's ass somewhere. What else do we got? Here we have, okay. Braided hair. This hair is very similar. This braided style is very similar to Melania's helmet. This guy, he's scary looking. He's got a blood spear. Blood on his spear. You see that? A big golf ball in the background. And this small child. Is this the one only known as the Lord of Blood? He's got a spear. All right. Yeah, probably Lord of Blood, doing evil stuff. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. So because of the rune arcs, the shattering was triggered. Is this the Blood Rose guy? There's blood on this. He's got to be the Lord of Blood. If he's the Lord of Blood, he's got horns too. Animal-like. Again, all these animals. Which one is the demigod here? Like, why are we getting... Look at this. So we get Ren of the Witch, 1. Then we get 2. This guy who's Margit. This guy who's Radahn. We know Radahn is a demigod. We don't know if this guy is. Then we get another one. Lord of Blood. Whoever this is. The demigods that we know of so far are Melania, Mikola from our Bewitching Branches, Radahn, thanks to the story trailer, Godric, and now Rena. This is the Lord of Blood. We don't know if he's a demigod. This could be the demigod. Kind of has like wings too. Kind of wingy too. But we don't know who that is. Could be, one of the... If he's the Lord of Blood, he could be Mikola. But we'll have to see who else shows up. Again, this could be Mikola and his Bewitching Branches. Although he's getting eaten by a snake. Is the snake the demigod, or is the guy getting eaten by the snake the demigod? Well, we just know somebody's going to get eaten by a snake. And we've seen some serpent imagery on the bronze shield. The brass shield. On the brass shield, there's some snake imagery. And there were snakes on the gladiator. But we don't really know much about snakes yet. We're keeping our eye on. But this is interesting that a snake is eating this guy. Yeah, he doesn't look really strong here. All right, now we're seeing a war from which no lord arose. Now we see Melania fighting Radahn. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. I don't know what that is. So the war happened and the greater will abandoned whatever the greater will is. He doesn't like war, I guess. I mean, there's other wars before this. Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Greater will, Joe. Not much we could say on that yet, but we're thinking about greater will now. Okay, here we go. These are the Stake America statues. It's different than the crucified statues. Arise now, ye tarnished. Then we see all these dead tarnished. Ye dead who yet live. So they're not those who live in death. They're dead. Ye dead who yet live. They're not like dead spirit or vengeful spirits living in dead bodies. The bodies are dead but alive again. We're not a skeletal body. Our bodies are living. And we see America. The America statue, Stake America statue. And incense. Is it the fog? Is this the Sea of Fog? These dead bodies going through the Sea of Fog? This guy's got incense too. The call of long lost grace speaks to us all. Now we get to see the tarnish. Now, here's some prophetic foreshadowing because we chose the prophet class. Each of these tarnished are relevant to the ending of the story. And that's why we get to see all of them. Here's Horaloo, chieftain of the Badlands, who we deduced is most likely Godfrey, who became tarnished and then changed his name to Horaloo. I'm not Godfrey anymore. I'm Horaloo. Here's Sarash. He even has a crown. And now he's dead. Stabbed. And there's Grace. Not blonde hair. White hair. Oh, there's also chains. So, chieftain of the Badlands, no more. You are done, buddy. Yeah, chained up to a tree. Also crucified, too. A lot of crucifixions going on here. The ever-brilliant gold mask. Well, he's got a golden mask. We got a symbol of the Elden Ring. We have these ciphers. These are the two fingers ciphers that we can use. He looks emaciated. He's like... And here's a symbol of the Erd Tree with the Elden Ring in it. And Grace coming to him. So he's dead. He's got a gold mask. This one's interesting. So this is Fia, the deathbed companion. This guy's dead. He has a crown. She's awake. Dead. Dead. Not dead. Fia, the deathbed companion. So she's in a deathbed, but she's just a companion. She's not dead. Look at her. She's not dead. How did she get grace? If she's not dead. She's not ye dead, unless she's living dead? Like, what's going on here? Why is she also naked with this guy? And oof, the loathsome dung eater. He has a sun around his neck. And like warts on his armor. He's getting hanged. He's a bad guy. He eats dung. But what's mostly interesting is the sun. You know, we've been talking about the sun realm. Is this a sun realm guy? Or is this a sun realm area? Like, this is his punishment? Like, is this sun realm? This is outside the lands between. Outside the lands between, outside the lands between, outside the lands between. Right? Outside the lands between, and he's getting hung. But, you know, it's interesting that Tarnished are making their own cities. That's good. They get banished and they live their lives just like everybody else. But this guy was a bad dude and he got hanged for it. And yeah, he's getting grace too. He still needs grace. And then Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. He's got eyeballs and ears everywhere. And he's freaking cooked. Everyone's dead except Fia. That's interesting. There's also an eye here. The grace goes on his eye. Looked like an old man when he died. Ears everywhere. All-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing. The recusant we fought had an eye tabard on his armor with ears. Was he his soldier? Why is the recusant coming after us? And there's a staff with fingers and a little golem guy. And then grace fills the palm. One other. A tarnished of no renown. This is also a tarnish that has to do with the ending. I like that it goes in the palm because you need your hands to hold the controller. Cross the fog lines between stand before the Elden Ring, become Elden Lord. And then there's that flash of white light, like when the Elden Ring's getting hit. And then boom, we get to play Elden Ring. So this one was a little long, but I think we've seen a lot of interesting stuff, and we broke it down in a way where I hope it becomes clear to how I come to some of my conclusions by taking the information for what we're given and not assuming more than what we're told. A good example is this. Where is it? So the order that we're told this story, this is told backwards. America's missing. The Elden Ring is shattered. America's missing, and in the Night of the Black Knives. This is not, the story trailer told us it was in the other order. The story trailer said it was Night of the Black Knives, America's driven to the brink, the Elden Ring is shattered. So this is already out of order. This is not the actual order. So this trailer isn't lying. It's just not being completely honest. Then we hear America's offspring, demigods all. So America's offspring are all demigods, but not all demigods are America's offspring. Okay? Claimed shards of the Elden Ring. So far, playing the game, we haven't fought a shard bearer yet, but the only item in game that we have that is called a shard is the rune arc. A shard of the shattered Elden Ring grants the blessing of an equipped great rune. So, when we start trying to figure out how did the demigods get their great runes, this is important to understand because America's offspring claimed the shards of the Elden Ring, and the rune arc is a shard of the shattered Elden Ring that grants the blessing of great runes. So it's just very important. It's very important. And then, we see all of our tarnished. We're going to meet them soon in the Roundtable Hold episode, and bam, Elden Ring. Also, that flash of white light. There's actually one more thing we have to look at. We have to listen. Listen very closely. Hear that sound?
And one
That
other
creaking and moaning.
whom grace would again bless,
Boom. Another.
a tarnished of no renown.
More creaking and moaning. Boom, again. Creaking and moaning.
Cross the fog to the
Boom,
lands
again.
between.
Okay. To me, that sounds like a wandering mausoleum. And we learned at the wandering mausoleum, we could duplicate remembrances. We can make copies of memories. Now I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. So this was a special episode. It was a little long. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment on what you thought and what you think so far about what we've learned in the series and where you think we're going. How will the story look with this method of exploration, storytelling, and slow burn methodicalness? Do you think we'll ever reach the end? Because I do. Okay, everybody. Thank you. We cannot do the thing in this episode. So all I will say is thank you for being a member. Thank you for watching. And if this is the live audience, well, you know why you're watching the series. If you're watching this when it goes live, you know why you're watching. All right. See you next time, everybody.